Welcome to New Life Live, the premier place to receive free advice from Christian psychologists and counselors for the mental, emotional, relational, and spiritual challenges you face. Since 1988, we've offered compassionate responses that combine God's truth with proven psychological principles to guide you toward healing. Our phone lines are open. Call us now at 1-800-229-3000.
Happy Friday. Thanks so much for joining us today on New Life Live. I'm your host, Brian Perez, and in the studio with me is clinical psychologist Dr. Alice Benton, and we are here to talk about whatever struggles you're going through, or even if you have praise reports, we would love to hear those as well. Ways that the Lord has used this program to help you with your recovery process, whatever it is that you've gone through in the past or are going through now. We're here for you. Alice, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Great to have you here. What's on your mind as we start today?
Laziness.
Laziness.
Yes, sir. And
okay.
I want to talk about the spectrum of laziness. And the Bible has a lot to say about this. So our view of it and how we handle laziness is apparently very important to God. But there's a spectrum of laziness. I was double checking the definition, and one of the definitions is an unwillingness to work. And that's what I think the Bible is focusing on when it talks about laziness, that there's a rebellious spirit of an unwillingness to submit to work. And I think that's the most problematic form of true laziness that God is really opposed to. And he's opposed to it because it's destructive. Laziness leads to poverty. It leads to all kinds of relational issues. So often in the couples therapy work I do, we are talking about what one spouse is unwilling to do to help carry the burden of the family or the household. Laziness is so problematic. But the other side of the spectrum is an unhealthy fear of laziness that can lead to workaholism and unwillingness to rest. And workaholism comes with a whole set of problems as well. So finding our way to a middle balance of both knowing how and when to work, but how and when to rest so that our work can be in the right heart posture versus working with anger and bitterness and hatred because you might be too tired and be working too hard. So a couple Bible verses for us to consider. Proverbs 6:6 says, "Go to the ant, you sluggard, consider its ways and be wise." And my family and I, we like watching nature shows, and there was an ant show on recently, and those little guys are hard workers. But what stuck out to me is that they don't stay out of communication with the other ants for very long. Even if one goes off foraging, they leave scent trails for each other. They look to communicate to stay connected to the main base because it keeps them on the right track. It seems to fuel them, gives them guidance so that they don't wander too far astray or too far from their mission. And that is the crux to the antidote for laziness.
Antidote?
Very good, Mr. Pons over here. It is staying in community and being willing to confess if we struggle with laziness to other imperfect people, trusted companions who are willing to help us on the journey through accountability, through loving us, and through challenging us. I didn't realize for a long time that the commandment about the Sabbath, it actually says first, work for 6 days and then rest. Apparently, we're commanded to work because God designed us in such a way that when we work a sufficient amount, not overworking, but not underworking, that's where we find the most fulfillment, happiness, and contentment. So I want to end with what looks lazy is not always lazy. Sometimes that ant that's not moving is stuck in sap or has a broken leg. It looks like laziness, but it's not. So 1 Thessalonians 5:14 says, "Admonish the idle, those who are unwilling, but encourage the faint-hearted. Help the weak. Be patient with everyone." Because there might be an underlying issue that looks like laziness, but it's really hurt or it's illness or it's depression. And that we do something different when that's the underlying problem.
Very interesting. And I like how you said that the commandment starts by saying work for 6 days and then rest, because your rest is even more fulfilling after you've been working so hard. And then you can say, man, I can relax today. I can take it easy. And, you know, some people just live for the weekend. We're not necessarily saying that either, though. But Adele, you're coming up here on New Life Live. Stand by.
Hello, everybody. It's Becky Brown, and I just want to encourage you to be part of our spring match. It's like planting seeds in the lives of so many people. Every gift that you give to the match will be doubled up until $500,000. Isn't that amazing to think about all the lives that God can touch through your generosity and through this matching gift campaign? I know you want to be part of this match, and you can do that by calling 1-800-NEW-LIFE. You can go to newlife.com/donate. You can also text the word match to 28950. I can't wait to see what God's going to do through your generosity. It will make a difference in the lives of so many people. Thank you in advance. To give to the match, text the word match to 28950, or you can go online at newlife.com, or you can always call us 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
And let's say hello to Adele. I'm sure you hear that all the time, Adele. Welcome to New Life Live. Welcome to the program. You're on with Dr. Alice Benton. What's going on?
Well, I just wanted to mention to you guys that I just want to say how appreciative I am, because many years ago, back in 2002, I had a 1-year-old and I had a 5-year-old, and I was home, a stay-at-home mom, and I had taken my grandmother at that time, my in-law, to the Billy Graham. And I came back a born-again Christian. And at that time, my ex-husband left me, changed checking accounts, and I didn't have any income. And anytime I had to leave a message for him of what the kids wanted, it was just a message, and he would leave it up at the door. So I was lost at that time because I was married to him for so many years, and my neighbor across the street had listened to you guys, and she called in on behalf of me, and she wanted to know what she can do to help me because he had left. Well, then I got her running over to my house saying, I need you to call this number. And I called him, and you guys completely changed the whole session from whatever you guys were talking before to other people giving me praises and all kind of advice of what I should do. And the one question that I remembered when you guys asked me was, what was the reason of why you think that your husband had left you? And I said, I feel like it was the devil that was attacking me, because the devil does attack when you do become a born-again Christian, because he wants you to go back to your old ways. And you guys told me that was correct. And I want to say, like 2 days later, he chose to come back, and we decided to work it out another 6 years, and then we winded up getting divorced. But you guys, I hear you talking about a lot of turmoil, a lot of things that are happening and going on right now. But I am a true believer that you may be going through a black tunnel, but there's always a light at the end of the tunnel with God with you. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for giving me that. That was an amazing thing that God had given me, and he blessed me with you guys.
Adele, thank you so much for calling with that, because I know we do a lot of work. I know we help a lot of people. I know we've been doing this for 36, 37 years now. So to hear these calls from people who are appreciative of what we've done in the past, what we're doing now, it's just amazing.
And Adele, you had the courage to call, to be in those circumstances, abandoned with 2 young children, and yet you were willing to risk reaching out to a radio show you hadn't heard of before, the neighbor. That takes a lot of courage on your part. Would you tell us, given the fact that your husband eventually did leave after those other 6 years, how's life now, and what's your family structure like now?
My goodness. I continued, I became a single mom, and I continued worshiping God. And then after the divorce, I will say, though, I did go through a lot, and I did go through a lot of anger and hostility because it had happened. But God had, I kept asking, why would you put me through this? And I thought you did not allow divorces because it was him that wanted it. And all he kept telling me was, you're being molded to a person that you will never be again. And that's what happened. So 10 years later, I met the man of my life. He happened to be my dream man. And I took one good look at him, and I said, you're the man I'm going to marry. And he looked at me like I was crazy, but I winded up marrying him, and I am so happy. And he was exactly the man that I wanted. And the one thing I was looking for in a man was somebody who would be a follower of Jesus and to go to church with me, because that was one thing that I didn't have with my ex-husband. So, and he goes to church with me, and we worship together, and I'm happy. My kids are happy, and now, I have a granddaughter. So it was a trauma at that time, because I didn't know what to do. I was lost, and I was scared. But with the grace of you guys and the grace of God, it helped me through it completely.
And Adele, when you pointed out that you believe the enemy had a hand in your husband leaving when he did, was he angry that you had converted, and was that part of his reason for leaving?
It was not his part of reason. No, ma'am. He wasn't angry that I converted, but I will say, though, he did not like who I became, because I became more involved with the church. I had become more involved with my friends with the church. I started doing a lot of questioning about my religion. I was praying over him while he was sleeping, and he woke up and asked me, like, he thought I was weird because I was praying over him, praying that he would become close. It
wasn't the conversion itself, but it was how your life changed because you converted that he disliked and disagreed with. I think it's wise for us to consider, is spiritual warfare involved in any of the problems we face, the big traumas like abandonment and the small difficulties we go through? Because I think in this world, we have taken spirituality out of so many aspects of life, and we've replaced it with science, that there's a logical, concrete evidence for why things happen. And it's good to look at that evidence. But like you, I have also come to believe that spiritual warfare, it is active, it's alive. Yes. We really have an enemy who wants to kill, steal, and destroy. So when I face problems now, small or large, if I can remember, I should pray about this problem and then act on the concrete physical evidence I see, but also act on the spiritual evidence that I don't see, but I believe might be behind the scenes. So I respect the ways that you have looked at this. You also make me think of God's promise that he'll redeem the years that the locusts have stolen. And that sure sounds like that has happened in your second marriage.
I was going to ask you, if you, this was 20 some years ago. If you knew back then, so many people give up hope and they just don't think that, they think this is the end. Nobody wants their marriage to fall apart. And here you are, you're in a good place now. How are the kids doing? You say you're a grandmother now, so.
Yes. So my 5-year-old, of course, he didn't really remember a lot of that, but my 5-year-old, he's going to college, and he is now 27. Oh, that probably tells you how old I am. and then I have my 1-year-old, and he is now 23 years old. Mm-hmm. So, and then yes, I do have a granddaughter. She's 1.5-year-old, and then my son just got married to his his huge blessing in life with I can't say that anymore, but she's my daughter-in-law now, and that happened yesterday. So,
oh wow.
Yes.
We are so happy for you that life has turned out in this way. I do want to speak to the anger and hostility you felt initially. And that sure sounds like a lot of righteous anger that you had with what your husband did to you and to the children. And I want to support righteous anger because it has such a God-given purpose of fueling us to fight against evil. And so I'm sure you know this, but to the listeners, I want to say that anger in and of itself is not bad. It can actually be very holy, and it can put us into a divine purpose, fuel us into a divine purpose. But it's also our job to figure out how to manage our anger so that it doesn't take over and control us. And so God wants us to act in it, but also to process it and not to sin in our anger. And I just want to ask, how is your resentment and bitterness today towards the man who did such damage to you and your children?
I will say, though, I did go through a lot. It wasn't just the fact that I was angry with him. It was the fact that I was angry of how it happened. And let me just kind of say, too, 6 years later, yes, we did go through a divorce, but also there was a lot of things that was going on in my life that I didn't want to, I didn't want to kind of express, but I'm happy to express it. When we were going through a separation, he did try to commit suicide with carbon monoxide. And then he also, we winded up going over to take him to the hospital, and he had 20% in his system with the carbon monoxide. But it was because we were going through a lot of fighting and arguing, and I wanted to be separated. Also, when we were separated, he started making accusations that I was having an affair when I really wasn't. But he winded up being in the cycle ward for a week, and then he came out. I suggested that we can kind of, let's re-spark the love that we had together, and his parents would be able to take care of him because he tried to commit in the middle of the night. And I would take care of the responsibilities with the kids. And at that time, my oldest was probably about 15. No, wait, he was probably about 10. I'm sorry. And then my youngest one was 5. And then he left. He never wanted to come back. He kept stringing me along because I would ask him, when can we go out? When can you come home? And this is where my anger came out. So I turned to another man for comfort, and I winded up getting pregnant. Well, my mother-in-law at that time suggested that I'd have an abortion. And that's where the anger came from. I was so mad at myself for what I've done. And I was hating the world because, one, I was the first one to be divorced in the family. And then on top of that, in the same year, I was going through another turmoil with having to deal with abortion. And I didn't realize that, when you are going through an abortion, you actually have postpartum depression after that too.
Adele, this is such a complex story with multi-layered trauma.
Yeah.
And I thank you for your vulnerability. No wonder you have had anger at multiple people, yourself included. And I want to throw in the potential, maybe God as well, that he allowed your family to go through so much. You hold anger that your mother-in-law influenced having an abortion. And what I want to encourage is that as you check on whether or not you still hold justified bitterness and resentment, because there are reasons why you have felt that way, and maybe you still do, God continues to invite us into deeper levels of healing. So not only did he redeem your family into a much better position. But if you still find yourself with a level of resentment or bitterness that's hard to let go of, and you sound like the kind of person who probably has made the decision to forgive yourself, to confess, to forgive your ex-husband, but if bitterness remains, I hope you'll consider letting us help you through therapy, through an intensive, because there's more healing that I think God is inviting you into.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
We'll stay on hold. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we're coming up to our breaks. It sounded like I had one more thing to say, so we'll come back to you in a little bit here on New Life Live, but it is time for us to go to our break. Thank you so much for calling us. And it's so good to hear these calls from people who have been helped, whom the Lord has helped by using New Life Ministries. And we hear these stories all the time. We love hearing these stories. So whenever you guys want to share something with us, please call us here, either here on the radio program, or you can also leave a message with our call center. That number is 1-800-NEW-LIFE. You can also email us. All the information is at newlife.com. But we'll be right back on New Life Live.
Restore gave me strength. It gave me more belief in my faith. I met up with a group of women that are going through things that they had no control over.
If you've been affected by betrayal, an emotional or physical affair, or pornography, the Restore Intensive will equip you with support and tools to help you through.
When two people want to do their part, we can be restored. But if they don't, we can still be restored. We are not stuck because someone else made a decision. That God lets us weigh in on how we want to walk out our lives. Our wellness does not hinge on another person's decision.
The Restore Intensive is coming to Dallas, Texas, May 2nd through the 4th. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and use the discount code NLL to save $50.
I had a great experience at Restore.
1-800-NEW-LIFE and the discount code NLL.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Hello, thank you for listening. Thanks for watching as well. My name is Brian Perez. I'm here with Dr. Alice Benton. She's a clinical psychologist, and we were talking to Adele, who phoned in from Fort Worth, Texas, and with her incredible story of how the Lord restored everything that happened to her, and now she's in a better place. But there's still these issues that have crept up from time to time, I'm sure, and I think you wanted to speak to that, Alice.
Well, I think it's why it's important to know that with problems we experience, the enemy may have a hand in it. And then it's also important to look at, well, what was my participation with the problem or with the enemy? Did I give in? Did I step out of God's will and his way? The answer is often yes, because we humans are so fallible and do that so often. And was there a mental health issue that may or may not have been exacerbated by the enemy? It might just be part of our broken human bodies, our broken human nature. So for Adele to be so vulnerable and open up to us that there was a suicide attempt, that there was an abortion, it fills in the story so much more, because then we can know we don't just need to pray against the enemy. That's always valuable to do, but it would also help to confess what was my part. What did I do wrong? To confess and get healing from an abortion, especially as a Christian woman. It is such a weight on our heart and soul that at some point, some of us have made that decision in our lives, even if we thought we had good reasons for doing it at the time. The pain of that, the guilt and the regret of that does not tend to go away. And then to know that her ex-husband was struggling with suicide attempts, perhaps a diagnosis of depression and maybe more. A mental health issue doesn't usually get better just by praying against the enemy. That helps, that's a part of it. But making use of what the world has developed in ways of medication, psychiatry, therapy, the treatments, it's these things combined in addition to the spirituality piece that tend to help us best.
Yeah. So, Adele, thank you so much for calling in today. And what did we want to send her as a thank you for calling in?
It was hard for us to decide because we think multiple things would be helpful to you. But the Take Your Life Back workbook by Steve Arterburn and Dr. Dave Stoop, we think would be really helpful.
Okay, well,
and then one of our grief workshops, our grief online course.
Yes.
We also want to point you in that direction because there was a lot from that first marriage and what you went through that it'd be good to check if you have grieved sufficiently. And grief usually comes in waves. And so we often need to re-enter the grief process again, even if we thought we grieved enough before.
Now, somebody listening might say, well, Adele called in. She seems to be in a happier situation now. I mean, a new marriage and grandkids and everything else. It doesn't sound like she's grieving, but there's some underlying things you're thinking.
Well, that's when we do the heart and the head check. Because if the positivity that Adele displayed to us, if that's how she truly thinks and feels on a regular basis, she may not be in significant need of entering back into a therapeutic structured process right now. But sometimes we can be very cheerful on the surface, but carry around with us the guilt, the regret, the sadness, irritability, things that if they slip out towards other people in our lives and they're problematic in our relationships or just internally problematic, that's when we might decide, okay, it would help to get some additional structured support during this time period. And I'll add one other factor. Even if we can be cheerful on the outside, but we're tormented in our minds with the thoughts of, oh, what I did, what he did to me. And it's hard to stop those thoughts if we're in chronic turmoil about these things. Even if I look good on the outside, then it's probably time to get back in for some structured help.
Adele, thank you for calling in today.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. God bless you. Have a great weekend.
God bless you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for listening all these years later. We're so appreciative of your phone call today and for your continued support. Now, something that Adele didn't mention that she did, but it is available. It's the Restore Healing After Betrayal Intensive. That's something that we offer here at New Life Live, or New Life Ministries, I should say. And it is for women who are in situations like a husband who has betrayed them, whether through adultery or through sex addiction or, pornography addiction, whatever it is, we can help you with that. And there's one coming up in Dallas, Texas, the weekend of May 2nd. You can find out all about it at newlife.com or by calling us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. It is a great resource that we have available to you throughout the year, including this one that's coming up in May. Again, all the details at newlife.com.
It can be hard to swallow that you, the victim of infidelity, need to do something to get help. And it angers me that that is the case for victims of infidelity. But the fact of the matter is the victim carries around the wreckage of the perpetrator's actions. Meaning, if I'm a victim's spouse, then I carry the righteous anger, but that can turn to bitterness. I carry the grief, and I carry all the self-doubt and questions of what did I do, and is it me? Is it something about me? And so even if my husband is a perpetrator, the point of getting help for ourselves is that we need to get healed and whole so that we can be there for our family, be there for our children, and even just live out a decent life after infidelity. Life can be great after infidelity if we will do our work. The beauty of it is that it's empowering, because whether or not the perpetrator spouse ever chooses to do the work necessary, the victim can do the work and can access peace and joy and strength again after. And that's what we want to help you with.
Yes, indeed. And really quick, just to wrap up the conversation about Adele, she seemed to get back on track even before meeting this other man who wound up being her husband. So that's what it's all about. You may never marry again. That's not what the Restore Healing After Betrayal is about. It's not about how to, go get on with life and find someone else to marry. No, it's about you yourself, making sure that you're going to be made whole, that you will be restored, that you will be healed after whatever it is that you went through. So again, you can get all the details about it on our website, newlife.com, or call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. It's happening May 2nd through the 4th in Dallas, Texas.
Hello, everybody. It's Becky Brown, and I just want to encourage you to be part of our spring match. It's like planting seeds in the lives of so many people. Every gift that you give to the match will be doubled up until $500,000. Isn't that amazing to think about all the lives that God can touch through your generosity and through this matching gift campaign? I know you want to be part of this match, and you can do that by calling 1-800-NEW-LIFE. You can go to newlife.com/donate. You can also text the word match to 28950. I can't wait to see what God's going to do through your generosity. It will make a difference in the lives of so many people. Thank you in advance. To give to the match, text the word match to 28950, or you can go online at newlife.com, or you can always call us 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Club New Life changes lives.
I think I go way back to listening to New Life, learning so much from it, and then becoming a Club New Life member.
Club New Life is a monthly giving family that helps New Life Ministries provide Christ-centered hope and counseling resources to thousands of people.
I'm so thankful because why I keep giving? Because I keep learning, and I'm so thankful for all the lives that you touch every day and the people's lives. So when I get to still hear the radio show, it's just so encouraging to my heart.
When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, you'll make a difference in the lives of individuals and families with godly counsel and connection to help.
And one reason I give? Because I feel like sometimes I'm hiding behind a counselor's couch, listening to all this great information and not paying. So my guilt of this great advice is alleviated by being a Club New Life member.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. And together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Thanks for joining us today on New Life Live. I'm Brian Perez. Dr. Alice Benton is here as well. She's a clinical psychologist. And Alice, what kind of struggles are people having nowadays? What are you seeing more of maybe in the last few years that you maybe didn't see before, or that seems to be increasing?
I would say the top 3 presenting problems for which clients come to see me and my colleagues as well. One is loneliness. And they say there's a loneliness epidemic, and I believe it. And strangely enough, I think our screen use has contributed to the loneliness. Even though it may connect us to more people, the connections tend to be more surface level, shorter in duration, and less fulfilling. And so a lot of my clients struggle with loneliness. And I find that people who know that they are broken and they buy into the idea of wanting to get into recovery and wanting to grow, they often feel very alone in their social circles and in their families. So we need to be able to connect with a community that may not be biological family, because if we want to grow and we want to get real, we want to have profound, deep conversations about what the true struggles in life are. You can't always do that in your family of origin or in the social circle you grew up with or the social circle you live with. Hopefully you can. But the person that buys into recovery is often the exception rather than the norm within their own location. And so those people have found me, they found New Life, and they don't want to be lonely anymore. They want reciprocal relationships where there's back and forth honesty, companionship, the desire to be iron that sharpens iron. It's partially why sometimes counseling is the only place that you initially get that, because you may not have safe people in your family, in your social circle, who are willing to have those kinds of relationships and conversations. But it's partly also why we at New Life repetitively talk about getting into a group, because God promises that he'll put the lonely in families. But he does that when we take action, when we get out, when we look for a spiritual family that may have what our own family isn't interested in or doesn't want to have. The second strongest issue that I see in my practice is people who have a very angry but Christian family member. Oftentimes a husband, but not always. So there's this difficulty in understanding. My husband, he's a believer. He reads his Bible every day. We go to church together every weekend. But he's an angry man who lashes out in his anger. And it's difficult for Christian wives to know how to respond to that, because a lot of us can fall into the default of believing, I think I'm just supposed to submit, forgive, forget, turn the other cheek. But what that does actually is it tends to enable the angry, destructive behavior over time. And so that's where boundaries come in, that we decide, all right, we're willing to help figure out what's underlying the anger, but I'm not going to allow myself to be mistreated when you're angry. That's easy to say. It is so difficult for a Christian wife to put into practice. And then the last main issue I see in my practice is parents who are worried about their children's screen addiction, but don't know quite what to do to change that. And what we try to walk our patients through, what I try to do, is to help parents see both their part in the problem, because it's like we parents, we're kind of the drug dealer to our children. If the drug is the screen, we're the ones that buy it. We're the ones that are funding it every single month. And we have sometimes given over our authority to our children. We've relinquished our authority to them, allowing them to become the decision makers about how they use their screens. But our children don't have the self-control. They don't have the maturity to be able to do that well. And so part of the answer to the screen addiction problem is parents being willing to take the beam out of their own eye first and help to form and heal relationship and discipline in the home, because it's those two things combined. It's love, but also having structure and expectations at the right balance that helps to solve the screen addiction problem.
Interesting that you mentioned taking the beam out of your own eye first, because it's going to be hard for you to tell your kid not to be on the phone so much if they see you on the phone all the time. Unless, of course, you're watching New Life Live, then, that's okay. That should be the 1 hour a day that you are allowed to do. No, but we do need to find that. We need to find it for ourselves first, I would say, right?
That's
so
true.
that we can then encourage our children to cut back on the screen time.
Because our children are experts at identifying hypocrisy. So if I tell you to do what I'm not willing to do, that's not going to go over for very long.
Yes. Now, Dr. Alice Benton has co-written a book about this subject. It's called Understanding and Loving Your Child in a Screen-Saturated World. And man, there are screens everywhere. We've got phones, we've got tablets, we've got laptops, we've got microwave ovens. That's kind of a screen, but it's not. I like looking at that screen just to see if my food's warming up. But then, of course, there's television time. There's video games. There is so much going on. And we encourage you to pick up a copy of this book. It's available on the newlife.com store. Again, it's called Understanding and Loving Your Child in a Screen-Saturated World, written by Dr. Alice Benton and Stephen Arterburn.
Writing that book changed my family. Because I didn't realize how much I was doing wrong and how much over-restricting in a fearful, controlling way was not the best avenue to help my family learn how to use their screens in an enriching way that can be a blessing while also protecting them from the harmful sides of it. And so if you can relate to that, whether you're more on the enabling side of the parent spectrum or you're more on the overly fearful, angry, limiting side of it, we've got help for you in that book. Help my family immensely.
Again, Understanding and Loving Your Child in a Screen-Saturated World. Dr. Alice Benton, I've enjoyed talking to you this day that I forgot that there might be other people who want to talk to you. So let's go to those phones. So sorry about that. Jack in Cincinnati watching us on YouTube. Hi there, Jack. Welcome to New Life Live.
Hey there, Brian. Hey there, Alice.
Hey.
I am a regular listener. And Brian, I just wanted to tell you, I know that you're new to hosting the show, new as in a couple of months. I think you're doing a tremendous job. So thank you for being there. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah. So I have a question here. It's something I've called in about before. I've got a close friend that I've known since grade school, who's been a regular part of my life, that let me know a few months ago that they're transitioning from male to female, or that the plan is for that to happen. And so we've had regular conversations about it. I'm a very curious person, and we have an established relationship, and so I feel like I can speak into his life if needed. I'm not necessarily doing that with this situation. I'm really just here to listen well and to love the best way that I can, and to just ask the best questions that I know how to ask when we talk about this. And he's fairly comfortable with this subject, and so is able to answer these questions. So that brings us to just 2 days ago, I was informed that they've got a new name, and they want to go by she, her pronouns. So for the rest of this call, I'm going to do my best to try to adhere to that. But she's asking me and another close friend of ours to start calling her by her new name, but doesn't want us to call her by the new name outside of the three of us being together. Just because I believe that it's, she doesn't want to get into the minutia of having to tell everyone around. I think that she's just trying to test it out, to see how it feels with her two close buddies calling her by the new name.
Yeah.
So I guess my question here is, am I compromising my faith by blindly saying yes and adhering to all this, and possibly contributing to the more or less permanent surgery that is to come soon, if something like this interaction goes well, if they are feeling positive about the response that they're getting, and they like being called by this new name, and so how does that hit you? I guess, Dr. Alice, is what I'm asking.
It's a tough and very good question that more and more of our listeners are having to ask. Jack, a few questions to clarify. Is your friend a believer?
They are not.
And were they ever?
Yeah, this also was a big part of our conversation a couple days ago. They were raised in the Catholic Church setting, and kind of came out of that experience not as positive as you'd like. I was raised non-denominational. We had a good conversation about Jesus, but faith is not really on the table right now.
I know that there are really strong emotional answers to your question. Some people think I'm participating in a lie if I use the different pronouns and the different names. Others think it may be a necessary part or an important part of keeping relationship in order to influence this person long term. So we'll go into that a little bit more about what does a Christian do with this kind of request. Very difficult.
Yep, it happens more and more nowadays. We will be right back here on New Life Live.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are. For over 35 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addiction, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
I found a counselor through New Life Ministries, and it's just been outstanding.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in a biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first steps toward genuine spiritual and emotional healing, call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door for a better tomorrow.
To get someone that's competent, that's good at what they do, it's been like day and night compared to what I've had before.
Call 1-800-639-5433.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
We're talking to Jack in Cincinnati, and Dr. Alice Benton, you had some thoughts about what Jack should do with his lifelong friend who has just recently said that he is transitioning to a she and wants Jack to use the pronouns and the new name and everything else.
So I think that there are a couple different ways of approaching this. And I think the most important step is to directly ask God what He would have you, Jack, do in this particular situation. My belief that not all will agree with is that God may guide us that for a time we might call a person by the new name that they have chosen. And it's not to participate in a lie. It's not to enable what they're doing, but rather it's to join them in the stage they're in, form relationship, and when the time is right, bring our opposing truth to that person. So I've been in situations where if there is a child who says, I'm the opposite sex and this is my new name, I don't think those are good situations for us to use their new name and their new pronoun if it's our own child. Because what we know is that gender dysphoria over time for children, it usually dissipates and children can come to accept their own gender. And so it's not helpful for them, for us to buy into what they believe they are. Rather, it's our job, especially as parents, to guide them into accepting their sexuality while we try to figure out why do they have such a problem with their sexuality? Because it's usually due to pain that they're rejecting their own sex, not always, but often. So approaching these situations, knowing that this person is likely making this transition because of a history of pain that they have experienced. Jack, I'd have you ask God, at what point do I bring my opposing truth to this person? Because I think it can be best to say initially, gently, kindly, I, as a believer, I don't agree with what you are going through with the decisions you're making. And so for some people, it may be, I cannot call you by that name. I'm sorry. I'll try not to call you by your old name. I'll try not to call you by your masculine pronouns. I'll probably mess it up, but I can't call you by your new name. It doesn't sit right with my conscience. I'm choosing this out of love because I don't want to lead you astray, and I can't enable what you're doing. For some situations and some people, that will be the answer. For others, when I've worked with a client who came to me struggling with their transgender identity, I prayerfully chose to call them by their name for a period of time and then to find out if through relationship I could later share opposing truth with them, trying to point them in the direction of this may be what God's will is for you, which would help you more than me continuing to call you by your name. Let's consider God's will. Let's consider what you think. Lastly, we're told not to hold non-believers by the same standard we're supposed to hold believers. So the fact that your friend is a non-believer, they can choose whatever they want. It's important to share the gospel with them in the hope of their salvation, but they're not living by Christian standards. That's not what they've agreed to. And so we're supposed to treat that differently than we would a Christian brother or sister.
Yeah. Really quick, I just want to add that there's also the hardline stance where, we hear, well, when kids are little and, your little daughter might say, I'm a mermaid. You're not going to agree with her that she's a mermaid. She's just in her pretend phase or whatever. So there's people who would say in the same way that we wouldn't tell a child, oh, well, if you're a mermaid, we're going to go have surgery to turn you into a real mermaid. Have you heard that before?
Yes.
Yeah. So what would your opinion be on that?
It helps to elaborate it, but I also think it simplifies it a little too much, perhaps, because anyone that I've gotten to know the deeper background story to who's struggling with their gender identity, I have thought many a time, if I lived through what you did, I would probably be struggling with my gender identity too. I might very well reject my sexuality if I'd been traumatized and abused like you had. That's not the story for everyone who makes these decisions, but it's the story for many.
Yeah.
So keeping in mind there's pain here, ask God what he would have you do, and then do your best to balance out love and truth and the timing of both.
Yeah. Jack, thank you for calling us today from Cincinnati. And now we're going to go to the Cayman Islands. Ricardo, welcome to New Life Live.
Welcome, Brian. I just wanted to call in and touch base and say thanks for the announcement. And our audiences have been happy.
Oh, wait, you're that Ricardo. Ricardo from Cayman Public Radio.
Yes.
You are Cayman Public Radio is the newest affiliate of New Life Live. So thank you so much for having our program on your station. What's the reaction been?
The reaction has been great. People have been touching base and saying, oh, it is so nice to hear them. And the times that we air it is in our drive time, which is 4:30 to 6:30 in the afternoon.
Okay.
Because then we on your 1 o'clock time. So it's just been great. And I just wanted to say thanks. And we'll continue airing it. And we continue to believe that our listeners will be blessed with it. So may God continue to bless you as you guys talk to people with the problems or the things that they go through, and just keep blessing people with your broadcast.
Oh, thank you, Alice.
Ricardo, it's so good to meet you here on the air, and we will do our utmost to serve the Cayman Islanders well through the radio show. Thank you for having us on live there.
Tell us a little bit about Cayman Public Radio. What is it that is it a 24-hour Christian radio station? What is it?
Yeah, it's a 24-hour Christian radio station, and we air, things, basically music, from the Gaither Homecoming and other Christian artists. And then we also offer programs from It Is Written, White Horse Media, and, Dr. Stanley, because here a lot of those programs where we find, and then, Chip Ingram, those guys do a lot of stuff, and Pastor Paul Shepherd. And then we also do a lot of stuff. I do a lot of talk shows on health and wellness because I'm into doing a lot of stuff with ADHD, autism, and women's health, where we're looking at colorectal cancer. I just did one with a lady there at the Mayo Clinic on endometriosis, and stuff. So we tend to look at a holistic view of the individual, and I tell them, I say, one of the things that we don't do on this radio station is talk about politics, because the stations do a better job with that, and we tend to focus on the well-being of the mind, body, and soul.
Plus, we've noticed that when people do talk about politics, it can get very divisive, and we've had conversations on this program before, Alice, where there's people on the opposing sides of the aisle, and they can't get along with their neighbor or their brother or their pastor, whoever it is. And so that's where they can call us on New Life Live, and they can talk to Alice or one of the other therapists and counselors who are here to discuss the issues that are going on today. But Ricardo, thank you so much for carrying us in the Cayman Islands.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, there is a lot that we do here on New Life Live. We're there in the Cayman Islands. We had a call recently from Iran and Canada, and where else have we gotten calls from lately? It's just amazing the outreach that this program has. It's mostly, yes, here in the US of A, but it's all over the place. And now because of the New Life app and YouTube and Facebook, there's just so many ways that we engage with people on a daily basis.
I think we had, was it a Hungarian man calling us from France?
Yes.
Recently.
Yes, I do remember that one. So yeah, it's just, that's why we ask you to also tell your friends about this program, and whether you tell them to listen on the radio, if you listen on the radio, you can tell your neighbors, because they obviously can listen to it on the same radio station as you, but maybe it's a family member who lives far away, and you can tell them to watch us on YouTube or download the New Life app, and that's another way that you can listen to us and get in touch with us. And we archive all of our episodes so that you can watch them at a later time and share them with your friends. If we have been of benefit to you, please support us financially as well. Right now, we are in the middle of a matching gift up to $500,000. So if you give us something today, it'll be doubled. That is so amazing. And we continue to do this work. For Dr. Alice Benton, I'm Brian Perez. God bless you. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you Monday.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com. Please join us again on Monday for New Life Live.
Thanks for watching today. We love helping people. I hope you sense that. And we know that there's always hope if you find the right resource. Now, if something we've said to somebody else applies to you, that's fantastic. That's what we're hoping for. But also, if you want to join us directly, you can call 1-800-229-3000 between 1 and 3 Eastern Time, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays. Those are the best times to get through. And while you're here on YouTube, check out these other videos that we've done to help people see where they could grow or a different path to take. And if you do that, would you give us a thumbs up on the video, and please subscribe to this channel. There are many ways that we can help you outside of the radio program, and it's very hard for some to pick up a phone and dial 1-800-NEW-LIFE. But when you do, we put you in touch with somebody who cares about you, knows all the resources out there, and they're going to find the best for you. There is no reason to struggle alone. I hope to see you tomorrow. Hope you'll invite somebody else to come and join that maybe needs just a little bit of help along the way. I'll see you next time.